My friends, let us begin with a simple truth that is so often forgotten in the noise of daily living. Nothing in your experience is healed by believing yourself to be alone in it. Many who come to me with the weight of anxiety or the heaviness of depression believe this suffering to be an indictment against their spirituality, a sign that something is wrong with them or that they have failed God. But I say to you, there is no failure in God, and there is no failure in the one who turns toward the light, even if the turning is done with trembling hands. Anxiety is not sin. It is not weakness. It is merely the mind's cry from the belief in separation, the belief that life must be borne personally, with personal strength, personal will, and personal protection. When you accept this burden as your own, fear appears. But when you begin to understand even faintly that your life is not lived alone, that there is an invisible presence walking with you, within you, as your very self, the atmosphere of your consciousness begins to soften. We are not here to shame the anxious mind or deny the human feeling. We are here to reveal that behind the feeling, behind the thought, behind the trembling, there stands the kingdom of God, fully present, fully intact, awaiting your recognition. And it is this recognition, this quiet turning toward the inner presence, that becomes the beginning of peace. So today, let us lay aside the belief that your anxiety disqualifies you from spiritual life. On the contrary, it invites you into it. The very discomfort that troubles you is the signal that the soul is ready to awaken from the dream of separation into the realization of the one who has never left you, not for a moment. And now, let us look more deeply at what anxiety truly is, not as the world defines it, but as it is understood in the light of spiritual awareness. Anxiety, as you have been taught to experience it, is not a force, not a power, not an entity battling against you. It is simply the activity of the human mind attempting to live apart from its source. The mind believing itself separate, believing itself responsible for its own safety, its own future, its own supply, begins to whirl in fear precisely because it imagines it must manage life by its own strength. This is the burden human consciousness tries to carry, and it is a burden it was never designed to bear. Fear arises the moment we accept the suggestion that there are many powers, circumstances that can threaten us, conditions that can weaken us, people who can diminish us, and that God somehow stands apart from these forces, occasionally intervening if the prayer is strong enough. My friends, this is the heart of anxiety, the belief in two powers. But the instant you begin to feel even faintly that there is only one power, and that this power is not out there somewhere but is the very life and substance of your being, the grip of anxiety begins to loosen. You have blamed yourself for your anxiety when in truth it has only been the mind's innocent attempt to defend an identity that never existed apart from God. You do not heal anxiety by fighting it. You dissolve it by awakening to the truth that the self which fears is not the self that you truly are. The spiritual self, the one that lives as the presence of God, knows nothing of fear, nothing of danger, nothing of separation. As we continue, you will see that your freedom does not come from controlling the mind, but from recognizing that you are not the mind at all. And so, let us turn now to the great discovery, the one teaching upon which all spiritual healing rests. The kingdom of God is within you, not ahead of you in time, not above you in some distant heaven, not dependent upon your emotional state or your worthiness within you. When Jesus spoke these words, he was not offering poetry. He was revealing a spiritual fact. The kingdom is the consciousness of God's presence, fully present, fully functioning at the center of your being. Anxiety, no matter how convincing it appears, cannot enter this kingdom. It lives only at the surface of the mind, in the realm of thought and emotion, which are forever shifting like waves upon the sea. But beneath the waves there is an ocean unmoved by storms. Beneath the noise there is a silence, untouched by disturbance. This inner depth, this silent presence, is the kingdom. When you begin to sense it, even for a moment, you will notice something remarkable. The fear does not have the same authority it once had. Thoughts continue, emotions may rise, but something in you stands apart, watching, aware, steady. That something is the presence of God as your very self. You have searched for peace in the world, you have searched for assurance in the future, but the kingdom has always been within you, waiting for recognition. And every moment you turn toward it, even if only with a whisper, even if only for a breath, you are stepping out of the realm where fear operates and into the realm where God alone is power. Here, anxiety has no homeland, no root, no substance. Here, you are safe. Here, you are whole. And here, you are already what you seek to become. Now, let us look with complete honesty at the root of all fear, because until this root is exposed, anxiety will continue to reappear in new forms. The great mistake of the human mind is the belief in many powers. The mind bows before circumstance, trembles before the future, obeys the demands of the body, fears the opinions of others, and trusts in its own strength only until that strength fails. And then, in desperation, it turns to God as a last resort, asking Him to intervene in a world filled with conflicting forces. My friends, this is the worship of a false God, the God of two powers. As long as you believe there is God and something else with the ability to harm, to diminish, to threaten, fear will be your constant companion. The moment you grant any person, any condition, any diagnosis, any financial situation, a power separate from God, anxiety enters because the mind must now defend itself against a world it believes capable of opposing the divine. But hear this truth clearly. In spiritual reality, there are not two powers. There is one presence, one life, one intelligence, one cause. And that one is the substance of your being. When the mind trembles, it is trembling before illusion, not before a real force. When the heart fears, it fears only the shadows cast by its own beliefs. The universe governed by God knows nothing of threat or opposition, and the more you rest in the awareness of one power, the more fear melts, not by effort, not by self-control, but by the simple recognition that nothing stands against God, and God stands as the life of you. Let this truth loosen the grip of fear. No condition has power. Only God is power, and God is where you are. Let us now come to one of the most liberating practices in the entire spiritual life. A practice that removes the need for struggle, for argument, for wrestling with the mind. I speak of spiritual listening. The anxious mind believes it must silence itself, discipline itself, overcome itself, or outthink its own thoughts. But the mind cannot silence the mind. The mind cannot free itself from its own creations. Every attempt to control thought binds you more deeply to the realm of thought. And so, I say to you, stop fighting, stop resisting, stop attempting to manufacture peace. Peace is not created by human effort. Peace is revealed through spiritual receptivity. When we enter into spiritual listening, we are not trying to manipulate the mind. We are opening ourselves to the presence that stands behind it. We sit not to pray for something, not to plead for release, not to command the mind to behave, but simply to become aware of the stillness that already exists within us. Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. This ancient prayer is not a request for words. It is an opening of consciousness, a surrender of personal will, a stepping aside so that truth may reveal itself. In this silence, you will notice something extraordinary. The thoughts continue, but they no longer bind. The fear may whisper, but it loses its authority. The waves move across the surface, but you are resting in the depth. Spiritual listening brings you into the dimension where God is known, not as a theory, not as a hope, but as a living presence. And where the presence of God is felt, anxiety cannot abide. Do not try to force silence. Simply allow space. In that space, the activity of the Spirit announces itself not through sound, not through words, but through a quiet knowing. I am here. I am the life of you. You are safe in me. And now we come to a principle that must be understood if we are ever to walk free of fear: the distinction between appearance and reality. Almost every anxious thought you have ever experienced was tied to an appearance, a condition, interpreted through the senses, a circumstance judged by the intellect, a future imagined by the mind. These appearances come with loud voices and convincing forms. They declare themselves to be the ultimate truth of your life. But my friends, they are not truth. They are the shadows cast by a consciousness that has forgotten its source. When you believe that appearances are reality, you place yourself under their authority. A symptom appears, and you tremble. A loss appears, and you despair. A deadline, a bill, a conflict, a memory all arise as shapes in human sense, and the mind unawakened treats each one as a power capable of shaping your destiny. But Goldsmith's central revelation is this: appearances have no power. They have no life, no law, no substance. They are projections of material sense, not expressions of spiritual reality. And fear is born precisely at the moment you forget this. To see through appearance does not mean to deny the human picture. It means to refuse its claim of authority. When fear arises, pause and say, not with strain, but with inner clarity, this is an appearance only. God is the only presence here. Then wait. Do not rush to fix. Do not rush to understand. Simply wait for truth to reveal itself behind the picture. All healing, all peace, all release from anxiety comes from this ability to stand still long enough to witness the unreality of the things that frightened you. In time, you will see that appearances pass, but the presence remains. Fear fades, but reality endures. And this insight becomes your golden thread out of all anxiety. Behind every troubling appearance stands God, untouched, unopposed, and fully present. Let us now step gently into the heart of this work, not as an exercise to control the mind, not as a method to manipulate emotion, but as an opening through which the kingdom within may be felt. The meditation I offer you is not something you do, it is a space you allow. So as we begin, simply let your breathing fall into its natural rhythm. You are not shaping the breath, you are witnessing the breath that life itself is breathing through you. As you watch the breath, allow the world to loosen its hold, not by pushing it away, but by releasing your grasp upon it. Every exhale is an invitation to let the mind settle, and every inhale is a remembrance that the presence is here. Now, without effort, without strain, let a simple truth rise quietly within you. God is the only presence here. Speak it inwardly, not as an affirmation to convince yourself, but as a recognition of what already is. Let the words fall softly into the stillness of your being. And now notice, as you gently rest in this awareness, that the anxious thought no longer stands as an enemy. It is simply a ripple upon the surface. You need not chase it, nor silence it, nor judge it. You merely let it be. The deeper part of you, the part that watches, the part that is aware, is untouched. This awareness is not anxious. It is spacious, open, quiet. Rest there. Feel the distinction between the transient movement of thought and the stillness behind it. This stillness is the kingdom. It needs no improvement. It needs no effort. It simply is. Let the next movement of meditation unfold naturally as you recognize gently. This fear has no power. It is appearance only. God is the only power here. Do not force the meaning. Allow it to permeate you the way sunlight permeates a room. And as you rest, you may sense a shift, a softening, a widening, a subtle peace rising from within, not created by you, but revealed in you. You are touching the depth beneath the waves, the presence beneath the thoughts. Nothing in your experience can disturb this center, except your belief that something can. Remain here for another moment, silently aware of the truth. The kingdom is within you. It has always been within you. It has never been far, never been absent, never been silent. You are resting now, not in a technique, but in reality itself. And as you return slowly to the surface of awareness, know this: what you touched in these few minutes is not temporary. It is the always present foundation of your being. You need only return to it again and again, whenever the mind forgets. As we continue, let us recognize something essential. Spiritual realization is not a single moment of illumination, but a continuous returning to truth. The kingdom within is always present, but the mind forgets. The old fears rise, the conditioned reactions reappear, and the habits of separation consciousness try to reclaim their place. This does not mean you have failed. It means only that you are learning to walk in a new dimension. And so we begin to live from the kingdom, not in rare moments of meditation, but in the very circumstances that once stirred anxiety. When something triggers you, do not condemn yourself. Simply pause. Feel the pull of the old belief, but do not obey it. Say quietly, even if only inwardly, "This is appearance. God alone is presence." You will be astonished by how quickly the emotional charge begins to loosen. When overwhelm rises, do not look outward for rescue. Step back within yourself and remember, this experience is happening at the level of thought, not at the level of spirit. The Spirit of God in you remains undisturbed, untouched by the agitation of the mind. That is where your stability lies. And when the fear of the future appears, and it will do not attempt to reason with it, the future exists only in imagination. The presence exists now. You cannot live in tomorrow, but you can live in the truth of this very moment. And in this moment, God is the only power. As you continue this practice, something begins to shift. Anxiety may still arise, but it no longer commands you. Fear may whisper, but you no longer accept its message as truth. You begin to recognize the pattern of the mind, and you learn to rest in the deeper awareness beneath it. This is what it means to outgrow fear, not by force, but by truth. Over time, you come to see that you have never been the anxious self you believed yourself to be. That identity belongs to material sense, not to spirit. The real you, the spiritual you, is incapable of fear, for it lives in the awareness of one presence and one power. My friends, This is the great secret. You do not heal anxiety. You awaken from the belief that anxiety ever had power over the life that is God expressing as you. Each moment of remembrance weakens fear's authority. Each return to truth strengthens your awareness of the kingdom within, and little by little, day by day, the old fears lose their foundation until they finally fade, not because you conquered them, but because you discovered they were never real in the first place. And now, as we bring this time of sharing to a close, I want you to rest in a simple, liberating realization. Your freedom does not come from mastering the mind, nor from perfecting your emotions, nor from achieving some extraordinary state of spiritual superiority. Your freedom comes from remembering the truth again and again that you are not a vulnerable human being struggling through a hostile world. You are the life of God expressing itself as individual being. Anxiety may rise, fear may appear, but these belong to the realm of appearance, not to the truth of your identity. Each time you return to the awareness of one presence, one power, one life, you step out of the dream of separation and back into the kingdom that has been within you from the beginning. So do not be discouraged by the days when old patterns reassert themselves. Do not measure your progress by the shifting moods of the mind. Your task is not to be perfect. Your task is to return. If you forget, remember. If you stumble, rise. If you fear, turn inward and whisper even faintly, God is the only presence here. These small returns, repeated over and over, build a consciousness so steady, so centered in truth, that fear eventually finds no place to root itself. You begin to live from the depth rather than the surface, from spirit rather than sense, from the kingdom rather than the world. And now, let me say to you with the tenderness of truth, you are not alone. You have never been alone. The presence that sustains the universe is the presence that sustains you. Rest in that. Lean into that. Trust that. Let the peace that is already within you rise gently to the surface of your awareness. And as you go forth from this moment, carry with you this quiet assurance. There is nothing to fear, for the kingdom is within you, and the one who dwells there walks with you as your very self, now and forever.